agenda for a meeting late in the year, and I
Oh,
think
for
that's why it's on
the
here.
REO?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, we received that timeline. I'm trying to pull it. Here it is.
I've got it here.
So yeah, we got that timeline that they presented to us, and right now, based off our last meeting with them, the timeline that they gave us, generally speaking, they are on pace for regarding 200 North. The relocate was going to be in late November of 23, and I know they're in the process of getting the water lines moved currently. Utility, electric would be right after that. So anyway, we wanted to keep that on our agenda just to make sure that if they start falling behind, that we'll get them.
I think if they didn't have you guys were gonna revisit your contract with them then.
Yeah, we're gonna revisit whether we close that road or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, so.
To approve the minutes, I think it's your last meeting related to that REO meeting at the highway department,
Yeah.
I believe.
We did. So we should be good there.
Okay, so the other update I have on the coal mine, we did talk to Michael Costello, representing the surety company that's overseeing the reclamation work on 700 East, south of 175, put that gravel road back in. Ron was at the meeting today, and we talked to Michael, and Michael's actually, in a sense, working for us, working for the counties to do everything possible to put the road back in, but he's got to do it with the accordance with the DNR and their regulations of what they require him to do and the steps that they require him to do it in. So we don't have a time frame. He said next Tuesday he's got a meeting with Shamrock Mine in Du Bois County, and he will maybe see how that progresses, and if they accept what the surety is willing to do, then they'll be able to give us a timeline when they can start moving dirt in our area. But if they reject what the surety is willing to do, then of course that might push things back a little bit. They had originally thought that they could start moving dirt this year by the end of the year, but that got put off by the DNR. So I don't know if Ron wants to speak to any of that, or.
Well, with Shamrock, he's got his engineers working on that project till DNR improves it. He can't shift them and let them start working on ours. And he wants to have a full set of engineering plans before he sits down with DNR to talk about how it's gonna be remediated. So depending on how that goes, and is when he can get his engineers working. When that happens, he's gonna try and get the road back first, but it has to be part of the overall plan that's approved. Because if not, it causes trouble with the insurance company. So it's all connected, and I'm convinced he's working on it. He's the right guy to be doing it. Very knowledgeable, and he's working on it a little bit.
Well, it's definitely great to see the movement. It's good to see how kind of slow the process moves. Because the good thing is on this particular location, it's not impeding any homeowners or any traffic.
It's landlocks, maybe
It's
a couple
landlocked.
parcels.
But this does reiterate the importance on 200 North, that if we don't hit these timelines, like have been presented to us, we know how long it takes to put a road back when we gotta get the DNR involved, because it's a long process, so.
Right.
So anyways, just the importance of us staying on top of 200 North over these next 2 and 3 months is gonna be critical.
Yeah,
We have another meeting, or do we have any dates at all, or
I think
Or
we have one in
Costello.
January, I'm sorry.
where Costello is gonna?
no, we didn't schedule. This morning was the meeting we scheduled with Costello.
He's gonna get back with us after his meeting with Shamrock, property owners down there.
Yeah, and he couldn't be at the 9 o'clock meeting here because he's got a plane to catch or whatever, but that's why he came to the 7 o'clock meeting at the highway department.
Very good.
But and then it was kind of, in Indiana is a little bit different. He's done West Virginia and Kentucky mines, but typically in Indiana, if a mine closes down, somebody else just buys it out and they keep moving. So here in the last 5 years or so, when the mines closed down and nobody was buying them, it caused some unique circumstances that Indiana as a whole wasn't used to dealing with. So that's kind of where we're at now. But it is moving forward. It sat idle for a long time. Nobody pursued it or did anything with it. And at your guys' prompting and request to dig into it, that's what I started doing. And I think it's moving forward, maybe not material-wise, but moving forward.
Yeah.
So.
Sounds good, thank you.
The other thing on there, the new DC salt building proposal, I guess, as what we were concerned about was getting a time frame on it. The original bid was supposed to be done by the end of the year. I guess with the ongoing jobs and stuff that didn't work out in their favor in getting the state permitting and everything done in a timely manner, they thought they would get done. The new time frame, if accepted to the commissioners, because I told them we didn't want to just have it unopened. They're talking about going ahead and pouring the concrete in all the walls within the next 2 weeks. They said that's a 3-week process. So then exactly at the end of the year, the 1st of January, they would start doing the framing and get it under roof. And then by the end of February, I think is what I got on there, February to the first part of March is when they plan to have it completed. We didn't get into any penalties or anything if it goes beyond a certain date. I just told them that I would propose to you that their time frame. They're not planning on dragging it on all summer,
Okay.
all next year, but that's what Kenneth Lee had told me yesterday.
Well, that time frame could work out well, because, that would allow us theoretically to empty our current salt building for this winter season. And then we would just know not to replenish the supplies until we get the new salt building done.
So then we wouldn't have to move
Existing.
two 3,000 ton of salt, 15 tons at a time
Exactly.
to our new facility, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as long as it's done April of '24, it's gotta be done by the end of April for sure.
Okay. So that gives, I mean, he's planning not the end of February, but
Yes.
yeah, I think it's acceptable. I told him I don't want to go through another winter without having the facility.
Ron, you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, so, what date do you want to give him? Or comfortable with?
The April date that you said is fine, but
Okay.
if for some reason January and February turn into a monstrous winter, then that he's not predicting, then that still helps him, because he's planning on the 1st of March.
Now, do we have any additional costs, was just like, concrete blankets or any of that stuff, just since they didn't do it in October versus?
No, that's a good point. I did not ask him about that, but that is a good thing. If you're pouring concrete this time of year, it needs to be blanketed.
Yeah, it could add, $5,000-$10,000, I think.
But I think my response would be to that it's kind of a bid project, and they bid it, and to have it done at the first of the year, and if their time frame moved, I don't think I should be responsible for the blankets.
Okay. All right, yeah, let's keep moving forward. That way we can keep moving forward with the selling of the existing salt building. They should coincide nicely. I'd entertain a motion to accept the new time frame on the salt building.
So moved.
A motion made by Commissioner Arnold. I will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 2-0.
And on our last meeting, I've been putting together, I told you guys one meeting I was going to give you an update on everything we've done this year as far as exact miles of tiling. I know we talked about that one time, chip sealing, paving, we talked about the funds it costs to do that, what we're actually capable of doing when we're at fully staffed, and then cost associated with the amount of new infrastructure put in. And I'll give you guys an update on that at the last meeting of the year, and then we can kind of make a plan for how much we want to invest in developing new infrastructure and how much we want to try to build, I guess, because our ultimate goal is turning our gravel roads into hard surface roads. A little bit of that, I'll just kind of dive into a little bit. But now we've done how many, what'd you say, about 50 mile roads in the last 5 years or so, give or take. So now we've got 50 more miles of road that costs us more to maintain. So when I'm looking at roads to crack seal, chip seal, to overlay, at our current status, before we've done these upgraded roads, we would look at it and was like, that road needs done. So, you know, I'll put it on a list and we'll do it this year. As we keep building more infrastructure, now I'm looking at certain roads and I can't just say, that road needs done, I'll put it on a list. I'm looking at them saying, can that road make it another year? And if I wait too long, I got to do too much work. So we'll get into that. So it starts cutting into the budget and the funding of the highway department and how that all works.
Yeah, no question, and I think we're all in agreement, maintaining the roads we have is much more important than improving the gravel roads, because we have to maintain what we have. And just based off what we've learned at the road school, you know, the Pacer ratings of 5 through 1, it's cheaper keeping a 3 up to a 4 than it is a 2. If you let them fall too much, it costs you even more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the way I envision this thing working is that over time, you're gonna have less and less new road money over time, because that money's gonna be moved over to the maintenance. So we might, say we did 50 miles in 5 years, the next 5 years, maybe we can do 30 miles, and then 20, and then 10, and then gradually, we're going to have just maintenance money only. But then we'll have, 100 more miles of hard surface roads, and that might be the best we can get.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we know all gravel roads won't be hard surface. I mean, it's not financially possible to do that. But maintain what we have.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it's easier, it's a lot more cost effective to maintain a higher graded, hard surface road than to let it completely fall apart and try to bring it back up to standard. It costs a lot more money. So we've changed our philosophy, not starting with me, but starting with Phil years ago. You know, we've kind of changed our philosophy, and we're trying to pay more attention to our good roads and keeping them good, than starting at the roads are graded from 1 to 10 instead of starting at the 1s. We're starting at 8s. I think the state average Pacer rating's probably like a 6, and our average is around an 8. Our county roads are around an 8.
Is it a 10-point system? The
Yeah.
Pacer? Okay.
10's the best.
10's the best, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And I've been working on the asset management plan. I submitted it, I think last night. I submitted it last night to the state. I haven't got it says it's accepted, but I haven't got my official letter yet. And that's where we rate every single road in the county by intersection, from intersection to intersection. And we record all that with every data you can imagine possible and turn that into the state. You have to have that, and you have to have it accepted before we qualify for any state funding or any CCMG grants or anything. So I was able to get that completed last night, which is due at the first of the month. So I didn't wait till the last minute or nothing, but and right now I'm pursuing the federal aid grant for the US 50 upgrade from Washington Corporation Line West going out to 300 West and 300 West from US 50 to the bypass 50, and then the roundabout. So I'm in the middle of submitting that documentation to them to get the grant. And so far, everything I've heard looks good, looks favorable. I've got a timeline of costs that I put it together, but I haven't submitted it to you guys in the council yet to get your approval and the budgeting for what it would cost. And basically it's some of it's a 90-10 match, and some of it's a 80%, 20% match. And I think with the money that we got from the relinquishment from US 50, we use that money to pay for the match. The other portions of money we would need the commissioners and the council to fund, and then we will pay it out yearly, quarterly, on about a 30-day return. So we will pay it, and then the state will reimburse us. So we've got to have a specific amount of money to pay and get back, throughout the project. I think I sent Grant and Jen some of that. They're gonna look over it and make sure I didn't mess anything up. And then, after I get their okay, we'll forward it to you guys. Make sure I did my math right.
Sounds great.
I had a chance to drive 1200 north. The road looks nice, but I was very disappointed with the etching that's already taken place. And I know that's something we've looked at forever on how to correct that, but
With the horseshoes,
yes.
yes, and especially on the new blacktop roads. I mean, it's the same damage it does to any road, but when they're brand new and they're black, I mean, it really shows up. It really does. It's probably from
Find a
900
solution
east
to
to
that.
1,000
Been working on it
east.
for 9 years, but, yeah, I think the only solution that we've seen, that I've seen that works is increasing the revenue side. So, I mean, they've increased the buggy fees from 60 to 125, and we've told them during our meetings that, $250 to $300 per permit is probably baseline average, especially compared to what we all pay annually for our license and registration. I mean, we all pay on average, right in that amount and do much less damage. So if we get up to the 250, 300 range per permit, I mean, we'll have $700,000, $800,000 a year of revenue coming in, and then that puts a bigger dent in that damage. But it's complicated because it's not only is it the horseshoe, it's the barbs that they put on the bottom of the horseshoes.
Yeah.
So if they just had horseshoes, it'd be one thing, but there's an 1 inch by 1 inch carbide barb on 3 sections on the bottom of that horseshoe for grip,
Action.
You know,
and that's what's doing it.
we had a safety meeting with Commissioner Gabhart, and the sheriff was there, and we talked to the Amish guys, and I presented them with a study. It was like a 3-5 year study from Ohio, where the Amish population up there is twice what we have, probably greater than twice. But they did a study on the actual horseshoes and the design and the different things that you can do to eliminate that chipping away and their study basically was the caulk on the bottom of the horseshoe, because the way they design them for the worst case scenario, the worst weather possible. They don't have a set of snow tires and a set of street tires for the horse. So that carbide comes down at a point, and the sharper that point, the more damage it does. So the study shows that, they want to widen that out. So we give it to, is it Nick? Or no, Rich Raber, the buggy shop. He said they make a lot of horseshoes. We give him a copy of that study, and he was going to look at it and he said they've modified theirs over the years, and he was going to continue to try to modify it and then spread the word to the other people that make horseshoes.
And the overall goal that we're trying to get to is, we told them that, we're gonna try to use 5th grade math on this and track the amount of damage that these horseshoes are causing, divide that by the number of permits, and then that will be next year's permit fee.
Yeah, and I think you guys have done, just since I've been here, you've done better as far as the whole raising the permits, selling more permits. They're still not funding the damage that they're doing, but
I think we went from $100,000 in 2015 to $396 or something today, so.
and then we're tracking the damage that
Got some room
they
to go.
do.
Well, and I would say the Amish community is very important to the Daviess County economy, and they're as concerned as we are about it. I mean, they've been good to work with. The ones I've talked to want to find a solution as much as we do.
Yeah, they do, and they contribute a lot to our economy. But yeah, it's part of it. All right, anything else, Chris?
Nope, that's all I got.
We got
Stephanie, did you get all that, or do I need to repeat anything?
And regarding the highway schedule, we'll kind of modify the highway meeting along with the courthouse remodel. But we'll continue to meet the last meeting of the month for the highway meeting, and then the time will be TBD based off.
I have to be a little earlier, or I might have to come here.
We'll figure it out. All right, thanks, Chris. Okay, next up, we got the pictometry contract from the assessor's office. Morning, Crystal.
Morning, all.
Morning.
It is time to renew the aerial photography contract. I think you guys have all had a chance to look over it. It is a 2 flights over 6-year period. First flight being, it says spring of 2024, probably be more like January or February. They have to do the flights before the leaves get on the trees for the, better pictometry.
Okay.
You
Is
guys have
this-
any questions about it?
Is this something we currently do?
Yes, it's,
Okay.
and it's used, this pictometry is used countywide. I think the sheriff's department uses it, the highway department uses it, we do, the mapping department, ambulance service, 911, it's all being used countywide.
And Crystal, we talked a little bit about this, just to clarify for the board. It's a 6-year term.
Yes,
We can terminate, but it takes 120 days to do that. It is auto-renewable, so we just want to make sure that we're tracking this so that if you or a future assessor is not interested in this, we make sure that we're not just
Yes.
accidentally renewing a contract we don't want.
absolutely,
Is this the same company we've used in the past?
yes. Yep, same contract. We did go from, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think we went, in the past, we used a 6-inch and a 9-inch ortho photography. They don't use the 9-inch anymore, so they do a 3 and a 6. And from what I understand, the quality is just unbeatable. So all their clients have gone to the 3 and the 6. That's a little bit over my head, but
Yeah.
I assume the pictures will be better. So,
Ron, you have any questions?
And this, you account for this out of your budget,
yes, reassessment budget.
so it's in there, and did it increase
there.
any from last time?
It did. It did. The product, the 6 and the 9-inch product, they do not use anymore, and so what they replaced it with, the 3 and the 6, of course, costs more, and then
How much
this
more,
was.
how much more is it?
8,000, I believe.
Okay, but you knew it was coming?
Yes. Plus the cost of, flying it. It was 6 years ago, so,
Okay.
there's gonna be an increase there.
Okay.
But as long as reassessment touches it, we can pay for it out of our budget.
So is this gonna increase or decrease property taxes? What's
Well,
your-
the
what's your
money's
guess?
already there, so it shouldn't increase anything. The
But
money's
they-
already there in our,
They do
In our
pick
budget.
up expansions that
I-
may have not been recorded.
Yeah.
And I mean, it actually does put some tax dollars back in because of this
oh,
project.
absolutely, yeah, we use it daily.
We've got an exemption, I think, what is it, 20%? They don't have to permit. They add on, and we've got several that do 20% this month and 20% next month that we need to look at, but
Okay.
It'll definitely catch a few things that haven't been caught.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think
Yeah,
the question was just whether or
The
not
permit system,
the taxes will go up,
the
but
permit system, honestly, they just don't file for permits.
Okay.
So if our guys on the road don't catch it, then we'll see it on the photography.
But how will you see it? I mean, we got 20,000 parcels of land.
Well,
So we
during
have-
our review, we review a quarter of the properties every year. So we pull up those.
You pull up their
We
pictures.
pull them up, the
Gotcha.
picture, and look at it, and we can tell if there's been changes.
And then as
If
far
it's a
as,
significant change, we will send the field guys out to pick it up.
so as far as there was a quarter of the properties per year for 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
is that how it works? And then, do you guys have a list that you go down through, or which quarter of properties?
We do, we divide it up in townships.
Townships.
So, I think next year, if I remember right, is, Elmore, Steele, and Bogard, maybe.
Okay.
I don't have that in front of me, but, yeah, it's a set process.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any questions for this. Ron, if there's no questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
A motion made by Commissioner Arnold, I will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
A motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Crystal. All right, next up, we've got the EMS bids. Anyone here from
The
the,
EMS bids are there before grants. Recommendation, Michelle
This-
Carrico, this is for the
for the
new
EMS facility?
EMS facility, yes, that they're trying to get
ACH.
grant funding for.
Oh,
You can sit here.
So, I think this was talked about a few months ago when, DPS and SIDC were here talking about
yeah,
a
you're familiar with it.
project on,
Yeah, but the grant's suspect right now.
They are going after grant funds, but
They're
it's
going
not been
after
awarded or
dollars,
anything.
But there's some issues there that they have to work with.
I think it's right there, on the east side of the hospital property, Red Cable Road. So the recommendation is to take these under advisement, and then, SIDC will sort through it and award later. Is anybody here that's related to this? This is a proposal from SIDC to provide grant administration services for Davis County construction of an EMS building facility project. Firm bid for 90 days. Yeah. Page 75 here. Project fee is a lump sum fee that will not exceed $50,000. Environmental review, $5,000. Administration and financial management, $1,000. Federal labor, total of $50,000. I don't know if that's what I'm supposed to be reading, and we don't have anybody here to talk about it, but we'll take these under advisement. I'm gonna open this other one to see if it's something different.
That was our understanding. Fine.
Gentlemen like a copy?
Yeah, anything else? Thank you.
Any comments on the bids?
Okay. Okay, I'd entertain a motion to table the bids.
So moved.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Arnold, I will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 2-0. Thank you, Grant. Okay, next up, Scott, we got the letter of intent for a multi-hazard mitigation plan grant. Like it needs a signature of support.
Yeah, I believe State Homeland Security applied to FEMA for, they do this annually for mitigation plans that are updated throughout the state. Each county is required to have one through FEMA. It's required to have, if you're applying for any kind of mitigation, to help resolve a situation that is a hazard that is in your county. So, an example, like the city of Washington wanted to put a storm shelter at Eastside Park, and they wanted to apply for a mitigation grant through FEMA. They would have to be signed on to this plan to be eligible for FEMA money. So they're a little behind in applying to FEMA on it, I believe, and so they're just needing a letter of intent saying that we agree to apply for the grant as the state of Indiana does, and be on the timeline that we will be able to meet the grant timeline before it expires end of next year.
Okay, and then regarding the Daviess County 25% match funding, like we've done in the past, is there a dollar amount that we go up to? Or?
Normally, it's approximately $4,000 to $5,000.
Last paragraph.
In the past, the grant's been around $16,000, $17,000, and the total vendor or contractor that does the bid, and so it equals out, and so our end time always counts for that.
Okay.
So,
but we know what the number is gonna be, and we have a budgeted.
yeah, we haven't seen what the grant number is yet, so we don't have an exact dollar amount yet, but,
Okay.
in the past, that's about what it's been. I'm sure there'll be a little increase, of course, everything has, but,
So
that's
our
approximately.
in-kind services increase too then, right?
Well, of course, yes.
Okay, I entertain a motion to sign the letter of support.
So moved.
A motion made by Commissioner Arnold. I will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 2-0.
Thank you. And while I'm here, I'll just re-announce that the burn ban was lifted yesterday. However, we did have 2 structure fires yesterday after the ban was lifted, but no field fires or open burns, so we're good to go now. I believe the weather's cooperating now. We got a good chance of rain over the week, coming this weekend, so hopefully we can stay away from it for a while.
Good, I got a garage full of Amazon boxes that need to go, so. All right, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
All right, next up, got the shelving unit for the clerk. Yes, Lauren?
Morning.
How are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Good. Great, thank you.
So you have the original contract that they had given me with the quote. There have been a couple of little changes I wanted to just let you know about. In that quote, there is one line that's for $15,850, and that was to relocate books and shelvings back to courthouse, because Ron and I met with the company, and originally we thought we were going to be putting the shelving and the books maybe in the hangar, and then once the reno's done, they would move back to here or wherever. But now that we know that's not the case, there is a permanent location in the basement here that they will stay the whole time. So that part will come off of that quote. I did talk to him this morning, and I explained to him that I'm looking at trying to get a grant for next year, but we can't sign the contract, we don't believe now, if you choose to do so, and then get the grant. So he said, as long as you're 100% in and he knows he's doing it, they can start making the shelving unit now, and then we can get the contract signed in January so that we know that the grant applies. If I get rewarded it, of course I don't know that yet. So that's one thing. And the other thing is I did get a hold of K&W's Fencing, which is who Dale gave me the info for who did the other cages downstairs, because there needs to be a cage around it so that once we move back, we know it's all secure and don't have to worry about the books. So I have the quote for that. He just got it to me overnight, so I can give that to you too. It's not very big considering, but I wanted to get that to you, so.
Yeah, and from my understanding, due to some of the space constraints we had with the renovation and adding the third courtroom and the amount of room we squeezed out of your department, we physically have to store these books.
Correct.
Somewhere. So,
Correct, I'll have less space in my office once they're
so
in
it was a
done
case
versus
of
now.
trying to figure out how to fit all that square footage in that building or provide some sort of near site storage.
Yeah.
So obviously the price is fairly expensive, but then when we look to the, price to make it fit over there, it was just not going, just
Well,
was
the
not-
shelving over there could not be reused.
cannot be reused.
Once it's moved, it will be destroyed when it's taken down.
So as far as I feel we have to move forward, because I'm not sure what we would do with these books, because we gotta find some spot for them. And as far as paying for them, I mean, we just have to be reliant upon the council and your budget and the grant.
And Tony knows, and if the grant gets approved, I can pay the additional out of my perpetuation fund, so the county's not really out any money. if the grant is not approved, I told Tony I feel comfortable giving 100,000 out of my perpetuation fund to go toward it. So the total, if we did this with this fencing, the caging around it, it's 186,857.33. So if I gave 100,000, the council would be responsible for finding the rest somewhere else. And Tony's in the loop. I haven't presented this again to a meeting. It's
Yeah.
in the books, but he understands
Yeah.
the situation, so.
Well, I think we've waited as long as we can, as long as you guys sure it will fit, and we've got the permanent space set aside downstairs. I mean, I think we have to keep this moving forward.
We've been measured, and there's an exact space that it fits perfectly downstairs.
Well, I know
so.
Ron spent a lot of time on it, so it sounds like you two are comfortable with
Don't
the.
really see any other option, to be quite honest.
It's a real good quality system. It has rollers on it, so the books won't be damaged when they get pulled in and out like just traditional shelving, and it's made exactly for what we have.
Is this kind of it's a specialty thing? I mean, there's not.
It is. It's a sliding unit, so the shelves can go together or you can slide them apart. So there's a rolling thing. So you just roll and it will give you an opening to go in where you need to go. So it takes up a lot less space than traditional shelving, which would have a gap in between each one.
Is it, you call it single source? I mean, there's not more than one that does this in our area?
I
or-
don't know that, but I know a lot of clerks that have used this system and they said it's very good quality and they've been happy with it. So that's who I reached out to.
Yeah. That sounds good. Do we need to make a motion to move forward, or what do we need from the commissioners today?
I would give a motion for her to be able to proceed with them to start building.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to move forward with the tri-state systems for the clerk storage.
So moved.
A motion made by Commissioner Arnold, I will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 2-0.
And then what about the cage
And the cage as well. All
included also? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
right, thanks, Lauren. All right, next up, we've got our not-for-profit list for next year.
So these are your non-for-profits that have reached out, asking, requesting for some money. So now that council's budget approval has been done and set for next year, this is kind of where you guys just to finalize.
Okay, yeah, I thought we finalized that during the budget process.
Council has now approved, so now you guys are just verifying that what they've approved is within your budget and what you're wanting to do.
Okay, but none of the, so the 2023-24 award amount, did any of these numbers change from what the commissioners?
Based off of conversation, no.
Okay, great. So none of our amounts increased, is?
Based off of your recommendation of what you asked for council, I believe is what you received.
They all stayed the same, good, okay. I wouldn't anticipate them increasing any of them, but that has happened, occasionally in the past, so.
I think the only one that has an increase that you guys did approve was the fair, because they had requested extra funding for their pins.
Yes. So basically, just, for the audience, on this charitable donations, we're trying to get these a little bit more contained, if you will. And we've broken them down into kind of two different categories, where we have the 4-H, Four Rivers Historical Society, and the fair, which are a little bit more quasi-government entities, if you will. And that's $84,000. The other four are maybe a little bit more distant. Senior Family Services, RSVP, Connections, and Ride Solutions. All great organizations, but a little less connected to the county government. And that's total of $29,900 for a total of $113,900. And that's down from $150,000 a few years ago. We're trying to whittle this down and kind of get out of the charitable donation industry as far as the county government goes, and fund those organizations that that should be funded by government. Anyway, nothing's changed. I would entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
A motion made by Commissioner Arnold. I will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
A motion passes 2-0. Okay, next up, we got the appointment list, and I guess we just need to look through those lists and see, are these all board members that we still want to appoint? And then if not, to find replacements. So
Historically, you guys have kind of broken this out and each reached out to a few of them. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
still your anticipation.
Yeah, it is. So Ron, I'll take the first page if you want to take the second page.
Good.
Then I'll call, and if there's any names, I guess we can just discuss it amongst ourselves. If there's any names on here that we feel, need to remain or not remain, then we can just share that with each other. I do know Debbie Goodwin, she's not going to be on the Visitors Bureau again. I'll confirm that with her.
That seat that specifically, I think it's more for the northern part of town. At the time, she used to live up in that area and she no longer lives there.
And we've tried to find a person up in that area, Ron, that we've not been able to do that.
Well, that's
He may have other hats he's wearing.
That's the preference, right?
It's a
Doesn't have to
preference,
be,
it's
but
not the
doesn't have to be.
requirement. Yeah, okay. So you take the second page, and just for the record, the first page is longer than the second page, so.
That's why you're president.
Yeah, that's right. So I'll take most of the work. Commissioner Taylor will let him stay down in Florida and sunbathe. We'll get this done, so. Okay, so let's try to have this maybe by the first meeting in December. That way we have a few days to appoint some folks if we need to. Okay, update on the courthouse renovation. Currently, Jeremy and Jeff Owens and RQAW are working on the preliminary cost. I asked them to go through the soft cost, because that's something that we've kind of glossed over a little bit, because there's quite a few soft costs that are in there regarding relocation, furniture, electrical, that I think are coming in lower than budget. So before we get too aggressive in trying to shave down the overall cost, I want to make sure we shave down those soft costs first. Garmong has agreed to lower their fee by 0.25%, which is good. And then we did look through the different categories of cost. We had Tony Dungeon and I met with the group last week, I believe it was, and just with some questions, ballistic panels, some of the hardwood. Some of the hardwood is less expensive than it has been in the past, so I think we might get lucky there. But they're going to bring us back some numbers, and then we'll bring in each of the heads, if you will, to show you what we've come up with. But just from a high level, for instance, like the ballistic windows are $7,000 a window, and I think we have maybe 8 to 10 windows in there. So we'll be asking each of the elected officials, where do you want those at? Now that we know the cost and the size, is this what you want, and is it going to provide the safety that you're requiring? So then with some of the hardwood, obviously, will be mainly on the court side. We don't want to change any of the aesthetics of the bench and the main area of the courtroom, but there may be some suggestions along the walls that we ask you to consider, and also in your chambers on where you want the wood at. So my sense is the project's definitely moving forward. We're going to be able to get that 13.8 number down, but we don't want to compromise the quality of we won't compromise the quality of the project by whittling it down too much. So it gives us maybe another 7 to 10 days, and we'll be in contact with each of you guys, each of the departments, or that's what I call them. I don't know what you guys call yourselves, but to show you some of the preliminary numbers and cost that the rail, the center rail coming up through the main atrium to the second level. That's $10,000 to replace that rail. So we told them just leave that rail for $10,000. So a little odds and ends stuff like that. We definitely want your guys' feedback on. So, and then that will help us kind of get a firmer number. It's gonna be 13 point something. It's gonna be the final number.
So on the funding, just the last council meeting, they took their initial steps to approve a bond. My recollection is it was 50 to 60 days at a minimum to then have the money and sell those bonds. That puts us early January.
Yeah.
We adopted a bond ordinance, discussed an appropriation ordinance. So you guys know the numbers as it relates to that. They were gonna send those bonds back out to local banks and just in general to get current rates, refresh that rate, make sure that competition as it relates to that.
Yeah, so a lot of things happening simultaneous. I mean, we definitely want to get this project moving first quarter. Once we get the number down to however low we feel we can get it, then we'll look at that gap. I told him look at the commissioner's budget first for any excess funds, and then maybe coming to each of you to say, look, do you have any monies that can be used for any of these components, so that we can keep that bond at $5 million? Because I think that's the number that they're pretty much fixed on that number. So. But it's moving forward. You haven't heard anything for about a week just because we got the team digging and getting some numbers. But our hope is come February, hammers are flying over there. But the good news is it's not something we have to do February 1st or January 1st. I mean, we want to get it as soon as possible. But that's the update. Any feedback, Ron?
People need to understand a lot of the costs were squeezed out of it during the design phase. I mean, at one time, you could have made it an $18, $20 million project without too much trouble at all. And I think what was done, and again, the same concern that you have, is we want to make sure what we have is a good finished product. And when you look at it, the roof, the windows, the HVAC had been put off for years knowing this was coming. And you take those three out, I mean, the project's really not that much when you take those things out, but you have to do the rest because of it. So we're kind of up against a wall, but I'm convinced there's a little bit of money to be squeezed out of it, but I don't want to squeeze, you just don't want an inferior product at the end of the day.
And that's a good point. I would say at least 50% of it's normal deferred maintenance stuff that we're gonna do no matter what. And we can't do the deferred maintenance and then come back and do the renovation.
Right.
You can't do it that way, so.
In respect to everyone's schedules and everyone trying to get maneuvered, so when you're saying hammers flying, does that mean that they're already moved over and in place? Or are you expecting them to be moving in February? Because the
Oh,
courts,
yeah, they'd already be moved. So I mean, my
if we're moving in January.
December/January. And now, again, these are rough estimates, so I mean, it'll be dependent on the department heads, because we can set the construction point at any point, because we don't have to be out of there immediately. So we can take our time, you guys determine the cadence, and there's not gonna be any mandatory get out of there in 10 days, mandate, so to speak. But my point is, we wanna keep this moving forward as efficiently as possible. So my goal is that, come February sometime, we're doing construction, so therefore, January-ish is when we're doing the actual move.
And I know Dale and Scott have talked with the mover, and there's discussion, maybe they want to do one department a week.
Yeah.
And get it set, but there's going to be some pains, no matter when you do it or how you do it.
And
But they're working on a schedule.
Is Garmong trying to get some dates as in when they're, coming? The only reason I say that is between our schedules and us trying to get stuff advertised and getting with the courts and trying to make sure with their schedules align with us for these rooms. I mean, specifically in January, that I've already started working with Judge Smith, trying to get that stuff going.
Yeah, there won't be anything happening in this building as far as official business, other than what we're doing now in January. So in February would be when the courts would be using this at the earliest, just because by the time we get the information back and the bonds back. So February would be the earliest. My point is, I want to give the department heads a window, and Dan may say, well, shoot, I can move over in 48 hours. Well, okay, good, here's your window to come in. We're not saying this is the week you have to move. We want to give them a general time frame, because what Dean and Greg and Lauren and everyone has to go through individually is going to be so different. I want to make it as smooth for them and if hammers are flying in March, so be it. So these are just projections. But we'll.
I had, and I thought maybe I could go ahead and start moving all my election stuff over. And get it blocked off, but I was told I'm still not done with down there, and they don't want to cause any kind of, when that'll be done.
I don't have an exact date. I know it's in process. We just recently, from my memory, there was a wall that was going to be constructed, and then in the past 4 to 6 weeks, it was determined that that wall didn't need to be constructed, so therefore the HVAC didn't need to be changed and the sprinkler didn't need to be changed. So all these decisions are great decisions, and I'm glad they're being made, but they're having ripple effects on our contractors that we gotta go and change their scope of work, which is great, should make it even quicker. So I don't have a time frame from Dale yet on that. I know he knows, I just don't recall from memory. It should be
The
soon,
HVAC will be less than a week's worth of work.
yeah. It should be soon.
I would just like to go ahead.
So if you wanna reach directly out to Dale, Dale will give you the green light on when you can start moving that.
My understanding, that's a Garmon call for the HVAC, because I think Dale's already passed it off to Jeremy.
Okay, but
I
Dale
don't know
would
where
still be
that's
the point person. And then Dale can reach out to me or Jeremy. Okay, so it's starting to come together. There's still a lot of, uncertainties right now, but February, March is when we hope to have all moved over, so. All right, so that's all I've got in the courthouse. Yeah, please. Yeah, come on up.
Just for the record, I'm Dean Sobecki, Judge of the Daviess Superior Court, and that's what we are. We're not a department, we're the court. You asked what we call ourselves. It's a separate branch of government. Our intention, Judge Smith and I, are to work in that building until it's time to move. So those dates are going to be flexible on everybody's schedule. I know that Dale had an opportunity to get over to the security center and make sure that he could network over there so that one of the courts could be over there. I've said for a long time that the design of this new renovated courthouse cannot be predicated on how we divide cases now between the courts. That's going to become evident immediately after the end of the year when I resign and we have a new judge in. There's going to be conflicts of interest. I'll be a senior judge and coming in and doing things. It will be easiest to use the room that we have over in the security center for court hearings to start with, because we'll have control of that, we being the court system. We have talked already, Judge Smith and I have talked already about moving judges back and forth to handle the caseload just across the street to do that. So we're all, and you have to understand that the entire system, the anxiety level just keeps coming up and up because we don't know how it's going to work out, and everybody's going to be scrambling, and it's going to be a big move, and things are going to change. I would ask this: the sooner you can get me and Judge Smith any of the proposed changes to the plans, the better. I think we've been able to give RQAW good suggestions in the past on their design process. I think I mentioned immediately after the bids came in that soft costs that weren't bid in that package would be a place we might be able to look at some savings. So the sooner we can do that, the better. We've talked for years about the fact what Ron brought up is a lot of this is maintenance, deferred maintenance, and things we're going to have to do anyway. I think it's also important to understand when it comes to safety that there have been a lot of compromises worked along from the suggested orders of the Supreme Court in regards to safety and renovating an old building. And when the determination was made that we're not going to put a separate elevator shaft and have separate entrances and all those things, that led to some of the other safety items that we have in the courthouse itself, the windows and all those other things. I'm not saying we can't reconfigure some of that, but I think it's important for everyone, the public, to understand that there's been a series of compromises all along the way on this design. I said at the last meeting, I think we have a good design. I think we've pared away at things. I know we've, we may have gone down the rabbit hole on a few 46 square feet things where walls were going to be and other things in the past. So I think we have a good design for the future and something that we can be proud of. And the sad thing is, like when you're talking about this railing, I don't know if it was going to be brass or bronze or whatever it is. When you talk about one-off custom stuff in old facilities, sometimes it's eye-watering what it costs. But I would also say, and I haven't seen the design of this or anything else, that middle railing is loose right now. It does need some work on it. Over 50 years, to restore a historical building, $10,000 gets put in a different perspective than if it's something that's going to be used up today. I'm not saying anything. I haven't seen the railing, but I do think that that's important to remember. We made a decision many years ago that we wanted to renovate this courthouse, that it is a historic building, that it does have value, and I think we just keep driving ahead and we can get all that done. But the sooner we can get looped in, the better, and then
Yeah,
we'll just
for sure.
stay flexible on the move, because we'll keep having hearings.
Yeah.
I said they could be moving everybody else out, and we can still have hearings in my court.
So we got the team moving at the speed of light. I mean, we really do, because with all the hardwood, that's all customization, so therefore, right now, there's $1 million of wood in the bid, and there's 800,000 of ballistic panels in the bid. So they're trying to bid, they're going to the hardwood provider to look at what's going to be the actual cost from that versus a level 6 grade wood or whatever it is, which is a high grade wood, just to see, are we going to move the needle in how much. So those are numbers we're getting. The ballistic panels will be totally your all's decisions. I mean, we're not going to tell you where to put them. If we need them all, perfect. We don't have any issue with that. But now that we've got the actual design and the cost, from a practical standpoint, I just don't want to provide a false sense of security for you all where you have a panel here, but then everything else you're totally exposed. And are we really accomplishing that safety? So my hope is within this next 7 to 10 days, we're going to have answers back, because we got to reach out to those vendors. They got to reach back out to our Garmong. And then we'll bring you all around the table and show you what we've got. So, but yeah, we don't want to compromise the integrity of the project. So,
Thank you.
appreciate your comments. Thank you. Anything else from the audience? Dan, you got anything?
No, sir.
All right, buddy. Ron, anything to add?
No, sir.
Okay. If not, I would entertain a motion to approve payroll claims and to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
A motion made by Commissioner Arnold. I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 2-0. Have a great week, everybody.